Hey guys, before this start of this video here, I wanted to say thank you to the viewers who support this channel. Greg Klein, he sent me, this isn't all the stuff he sent me, but he sent me 2 of these lights. These lights are awesome. I use, I had a couple other views send me some green ones just like these, same light, just green. And so now I got 4 of these things, and man, I use them all the time. I really like them. And then he sent me this. I didn't even know what it was. It took me a little bit to figure out what it was. I had to look it up on the internet. Couldn't even figure out. I thought, what the hell is that? And now it makes sense. It's you put that a tube of silicone in there and you squeeze it with this. That's pretty handy. We'll put that in the old toolbox. I'm sure I'll use that. And this is another thing. Oh, and also Greg sent me like 4 pair of snap-on socks. So I got a pair on right now, actually. I don't even know if you can. Yeah, they don't say they're the snap-on, they say on the bottom. But so Greg, thank you very much for your support. I really appreciate that, man. And I got this when I come home from my trip from Florida. This was in a box. It didn't say who it was from though. It did have an address. It was in California, but somebody, look at that. Looks like an oil filter, man. I've been drinking out of it for the last 2 or 3 days. I just think this is just neater than hell, man. Isn't that neat? I've got so many cool coffee cups. You know, Frank down there, and the guy that, Frank was the one that had the big fuel truck. He sent me 2 or 3. And then this one here, this is just, isn't that neat? Looks like an oil filter. Got my name on it. That's pretty cool. So whoever sent that, thank you very much, man. And my wife, she says thank you as well. And all the other things that you guys send and do, and the nice comments that you make. Okay, well, I guess here we are on the cat again. So didn't do much videoing yesterday. I just did that short video about catching up. I basically got the steering clutch cover on this. I was just trying to get something done. Got the brakes, everything's adjusted, everything's hooked up there. That's pretty well done. Took me a little while to and part of the reason I didn't video that, I don't know, you know, that Pacific Northwest Hillbilly, he's been doing videos on the D4 cats, and I just thought, well, it's kind of redundant, you know, people have already watched his, they're not going to watch mine. So anyway, and he did a good job on his. He probably did a better job as far as cleaning everything up. This cat here is going to go right back into the field, and it's within like a week it's going to look like this again from all the dirt and crap on it. So it was really kind of counterproductive to polish it up real good. Anyway, I got the it takes a little bit to get the backlash setting on the ring and pinion 7 to 9 thousandths, and the tricky part is getting the side bearings adjusted to where you get the preload to where there's no slack in the bearings. So you got to get that done first, and you got to kind of do it evenly on each side. And once you kind of get it evenly, then you got to start measuring your backlash. And the thing to do is you got to get your dial indicator kind of down there on your pinion, and then rock your pinion back and forth. It's kind of tricky because it's hard to get your dial indicator and your hand down in there to where you can do it without bumping your dial indicator. So I got the backlash set it right around 9 thousandths, and got that done. Then I got when you put your steering clutches in, so what I did on the steering clutches, here's the steering clutches over here, the old ones. I put new friction steels, and I got brand new brake bands. The bands come with the linings and everything on them. And what you do is, once you get your steering clutches, the steering clutches came with, there's inner and outer springs. So you press I've got like 4 of these now. Jim from PA, he sent me one, and then I had already bought one before he sent me one, and then I found another one. So I got 3 of them. There's another one in the toolbox at home. So this is a cat part number, is a 1U-9349. This is the one that I bought that years ago that I didn't even know I had. And then I had the other one in the toolbox because I couldn't find this one. So I bought another one because I did steering clutches on a D3C LGP. years ago. So now I've got 3 of those things. So but you put that, just put that on your clutch drum there, and the thing is, took a piece of plate that I had a piece of 1/2-inch plate, and it's got a hole in the middle of it. You can't really see it there, and then you just basically, these recesses go down around the springs, and you're pressing on this, and you know, these cats are dry steering clutches, so they get really rusty. So I take a little penetrating oil and squirt around those keepers, and it just helps a little bit, and you press down on it, and eventually they'll pop, and they'll pop pretty good, and then you got to dig your keepers out of there, and then you let it off, okay? And then, because you got to have a round piece of plate like that. If you don't have anything like that, I mean, you can cheat doing 2 or 3 at a time or whatever, but a round piece of plate is the best way to do it. And that way, because those keepers, if you just start pressing on it with nothing underneath it, the actual pins that hold the springs in, they're just going to come and compress and shove out the bottom. So you got to have something for those to come up against. And then once you get them popped loose, you can pull your hub out, and then pull all your frictions and steels out, and then it's just basically reversal of this assembly is stack up your clutch packs, steels and frictions, till you get to I think there's 11 on each one, and then you I got new springs, inner and outer springs, and then I compressed it back down, put the keepers back on, and it's kind of tricky a little bit. You got to throw your drum, you need to throw your drum over your frictions as you're putting it together before you compress everything and put the springs on, because if you do that and you don't have all this lined up, you're not ever going to get that on there. So you kind of have to get everything lined up, and once you get all that together, then you can, you know, I put new throwout bearings on the steering clutches. Once you get all that together, slide, you know, pick it up horizontally with your crane or whatever, cherry picker or whatever you're doing it with, forklift, and then slide your clutch drums over your, actually take your brake bands, put your brake bands all together, get them all set up, put your brake bands on your drums, and slide your brake band and your drum onto the steering clutches on each side, and then pick the whole unit up as one assembly with the drums, the brake bands, and everything on, and stick them in there. And then of course you got to get your backlash set on your ring and pinion, and your bearing preload set on your ring and pinion, and then you've got to get the then you'll have to bolt your drums, your brake drums to the flange that runs the pinion on the finals, okay? And then there's a lot, you know, there's a lot to do there. Once you get all that on there, you gotta get all this linkage hooked back up. Then you've got to adjust. I think I'm just trying to give you a rundown as order of assembly here. So once you get all that done, you got to, what I did is I got the brake assemblies hooked up to the linkage inside, and then I had to hook these return springs in. Now this right side over here was being a absolute pain in the butt. For some reason, there's a right back here where this pivots, okay? This pivots right back here, and there's like a return spring that hooks up, or I'm trying to know what they call that in the cat book there. Anyways, there's a spring back here. Well, there's like an eccentric cam. When I pulled the lever back on this right steering clutch to hook the pin up, there's a pin you got to hook up right here. The damn thing like went over center, and this stuck on me, and I couldn't get the lever to go back forward. I mean, I fought it for 2 hours trying to get the lever, and I finally got a mirror in there, and I was looking in there with a mirror, and that little eccentric cam had cammed over the wrong way, and when I was trying to push forward, basically I was fighting myself. So I had to get a bar in there with a hammer and hit that eccentric cam. Either that, or I was going to have to pull the whole damn thing back off of there. So I hit that eccentric cam while I was pushing with my leg on that, and I got it to pop back over and get the lever to go forward. So if that happens, that's what you got to do. You got to get on the other side of it, and you got to push on it the other way while you're pushing forward on the lever to get it to cam back over. So I was getting a little bit worried that I was going to have to do a whole lot of work to go back into that darn thing to get it fixed. But anyhow, what I'm going to be doing now, after, you know, and then of course after you do that, so you want your steering clutches. Now these things here, what if you get one of these old cats like this, it's got a lot of wear in all the pins. All them pins have got a lot of wear in them. What I'm talking about is the clevis pins that go in the Heim joints and clevis pins in there. They're all worn out. They all have notches and grooves, and they've got slop. And see how the play you've got in the linkage here? That's how much. See that pin moving down there? Everything's just worn out, you know. So that's not your, when you're adjusting your steering clutches, that is not your free travel. This is your free travel. Take the slack out of the lever like that, and then pull back. That's your free travel right there. Right there's your free travel. And you want about 3 inches of travel on this lever. It's the same principle, guys. If you've adjusted a clutch on a truck, you want free travel in the clutch pedal. And the whole thing, what I tried to explain with that, so these are spring-loaded clutch packs, just like a clutch in your truck. That's a spring-loaded clutch pack. I've had guys that on steering clutches, they told me, oh yeah, I adjusted them. He said, I had a bunch of play in my lever, and I adjusted them to where it's tight now. And I said, you don't want that tight. I said, what do you mean tight? He goes, well, I got all that free travel out of it. I said, well, you've compressed your springs prematurely. Now your clutches are going to slip. Because when you take all the free travel out of that with the adjustment, by tightening up the nut on the stud that runs the clutch pack, you're compressing your springs already prematurely, and you're going to let your clutches slip. You don't want those clutches slipping. So you want them either in or out. You know, and one thing an old guy told me, Tony, says what he does after he gets one done, he takes them out and he drives them, and he pulls both of these back. He doesn't hit the brakes. You should be able to pull both these steering clutches back at the same time, and the cat should stop. It should not move anymore. So that's a good test for them. So do that, and you want about 3 inches of travel, and you'll hear them popping. You hear that popping? That's the pins in here that are all worn out and notched. You know, it'll quit doing that once the springs and the clutch packs get a little bit weaker. You know, it'll be back to where it was, but that ain't gonna hurt nothing. I've seen a lot of those do that. But anyhow, then you put your brakes on there and run your brake up till it's tight, till the shoes are tight against the drum all the way around. You know, and then get underneath and adjust your anchor bolt with that bolt that goes up to the bottom of the case. Run it up till it's tight. You know, don't go too crazy with that. Get up there until it's snug, and then back it off one turn, lock nut on it, and then come back up here and adjust this brake band and back it off till you get about, you know, the book says 3 inches. I was talking to Tony, and he said, you know, they've noticed that 3 inches on these old cats is too tight. Usually they'll start grabbing. So what I did is 4 inches, maybe 4 to 5 inches is what I think is probably the best. But anyhow, that's the brake adjustment and the steering clutch adjustment. So what I'm doing now, there's a lot of things on these cats that were done over the years that you wouldn't normally see, because if it's a fumigation cat. This was all welded down. First thing I gotta do is get the fuel tank back on here. That's what we're gonna do right now. We're gonna swing it on here and bolt it down. They had this welded to here. That's my only trouble I'm contemplating right now. I just want to make sure I don't put the cart before the horse on this thing. But they had this welded right here. So I guess I'll go ahead and tack this and weld this down. And then what I can do is swing the tank over, bolt it down, and then weld this on both sides like they had it. I'm just going to do it like they had it. And once I get the tank on, then I can put the battery boxes, all that stuff, hook all the wiring and plumbing up, and we can keep going here. So let me get my ducks in a row, get my crane out, and get situated, get a hold of that tank. I had to weld a nut onto the darn thing. and I welded a nut onto this tank where I could get a hold of it and get it in there. I gotta find the bolts for it too. So it'd be nice to get this cat done and get the thousands of pieces that are laying everywhere for it back together and get it out of here. Okay. Got a pin. I gotta find my pin. Block it all up because they got a real long neck on the bottom there for the supply and the return on it. I didn't want to break it off by setting it on the ground, so I got it all blocked up. Don't know what I would do without my crane. Alright, so I got her C-clamp down, everything on these old cats. I mean, these things have got thousands and thousands and thousands of hours of use on them, and things have happened over the years. But they had this welded, so we're gonna do like it was. They obviously had some kind of issue with them. And the other thing is probably a support basically in a brace, because that glue machine goes right here. So let's get the old welder fired up and we'll go to welding on that and get that done. Got this all welded down on both sides. I can turn loose of that with the crane. I'm going to put the battery boxes on now, hook up the supply and returns to the fuel tank. Yeah, that's my game plan anyway. Well guys, I got seat in it and batteries in it, battery boxes, and of course the batteries are deader than a doornail. I was going to start it. I wanted to check my injector that I put in here, make sure it wasn't going to leak before I put the intake and the air cleaner back on it. But I got the truck with jumper cables on it and got the battery charger on it, and I cleaned all the posts, made sure they were all on there tight. It's turning over now, but it just doesn't have enough yet to make it go. So definitely not enough to glow plug it, then make it start. Well, I'm wiring the generator right now. What I'm trying to do, get accomplished here. I'm gonna run it through this tubing they got here, and it's tight fit. I should have just, I was thinking about pulling it off on the other end, but on this glue machine that looked like a real pain in the ass, so I better leave that alone. Now let me just keep stuffing it through. Yeah, this wires to the generator. See, the generator runs this. So I gotta run the wires. There's a couple brackets here on the firewall. Hold that wire loom up. And then it gets wired into the generator. Right there. So, anyway. How to work. I wish it'd start. I'm gonna have to sit here and be patient and let it charge up. I finally got it running. Injector's not pouring fuel out like it was before, so we got that fixed. So I'll tell you what the most handiest tool in the world is. I'll show you here in a minute. We'll see what happens. As you can see, the bottles of water here, I went and got me some. Just went and bought some water next door. It's the cleanest. There's nowhere to get demineralized water. And every one of these cells was bone dry on all 4 batteries. They've got 4 6-volt batteries. So, you know, they're all running series, so that's 24 volts. But they were bone dry. I filled them all up, been charged on it forever. Had my truck on one side, had this battery charger on the other side, still couldn't get it to charge, or get it to start. So, you know, I went over there and I got my little, tell you what I got. I've got this Noco Boost. This thing, if you ever have the opportunity and the money to buy one, you cannot go wrong. I mean, that thing has saved my ass so many times. It's just worth its weight in gold. I put that on there and the thing fired right up. So anyway, she runs. I got the injector fixed. I'm going to shut my truck down, just let the battery charger charge on it for a while. Now that the cells are full of water, they'll probably actually hold a charge. almost there. I'm right up against that rod though, man. Jeez, I hate doing that. Wish that was made out of money. I would have a building built that had a very high ceiling for doing this kind of work. Alright, let's see. I gotta, what are we up against here? Nothing yet. I gotta get this over here. Make sure none of this stuff's gonna interfere with that once I come down. I need to go. Oh, Bessie. Okay, I'm gonna need 2 hands now. In there, I got most of this gaggle of shit back here they got. I don't know if I tied it up right, but it's tied up. Got my hoses plumbed back into my glue machine and the heaters for it, because that's heats that glue. Right now, I mean, that glue's hard in there, but it'll heat it up and it'll start flowing. But anyway, got the generator plumbed. That's what's long, you know, that takes so long. There's so much shit on these fumigation cats that you've got to do that you don't do in a normal cat. So anyways, I think tomorrow, I don't know, I've got a bunch of service calls. You know, these guys, I know these guys are in a hurry, but that's what I try to explain to them. I can't just shut everybody else in my, you know, hey, you know, hey, these guys need their stuff. You guys all got to just quit and you're doing your business, you know. I still got to take care of other people. That's what they don't seem to understand. I'm still going to get them done when they need to be done, but they're all antsy, you know. They're ready to go. So anyways, it is what it is. Do what you can. It's all you can do.